Hello, everyone. Good morning. Uh, Thanks a lot, everyone, for joining. Uh, it's Dr. Amir Khan here. I'm treasurer of PAPANA, and I have been able to arrange this webinar with the help of my team, who are a group of volunteers. I'm extremely grateful to them, extremely grateful for everyone who is joining, and the most grateful for all the wonderful panelists uh, who I'm going to introduce one by one. I'm going to do is I'm going to talk a little bit, very little brief about what this webinar is all about and what we are going to talk about. So in the past few months, we have seen a sharp uptick in the unfortunate psychiatric, I would say, crisis in the students of Pakistan. We have had two incidents at University of Lahore, a private university, where one of the student died by suicide and another uh, tried to do it but luckily survived. Uh, this is something that has been going on for years and years now. When we were in medical college, we would hear, or someone tried to do this, someone tried to do that. They would try to hide it under the rug. So this has been very unfortunate what has been going, but there's also a bright side to it that now we have more awareness more than ever. And now we have medical colleges like King Edward under leadership of Dr. Hashmi who have been actively working on these things without stigma, without fear of judgment. And we have even private organizations within med school organization like Zainul Haq Counseling, and we have some other private organizations that have been working on it. I think that over the past few years, Pakistani government has also started paying attention on it. This was very evident when one of the very famous journalists, Hamid Mir, invited Dr. Ali Hashmi on his Capital Talk show, in which he described the mental health crisis we are in. And then Maria Maiman is another anchor for ARY. She also did like a small documentary kind of a section where she actually shared the numbers. So without further ado, what I'll do is I will request, first of all, my moderators to briefly introduce themselves. And then once they are done, I will start introducing our esteemed panelists. And then we'll request them to talk a little bit about the topic. And we have already received a lot of questions, and then we'll also open it for live questioning. All right, so over to you, Rabi.
Hello, Assalamu alaikum everyone. I am Rabia Rashid. I am a third year resident psychiatrist at Mayo Hospital, King Edward Medical University. So nice to meet everyone. I'll pass it over to Heather.
Hello everyone. I'm Heather Ishfaq. I'm a final year med student at Ali Madeeh Medical College. I'm the research chair at PsychSign and the admin secretary at Project IMC. So looking forward to this discussion. Thank you. Can you please
Hello, everyone. This is Dr. Nida Wahid, graduate of King Edward Medical University, and I'll be applying for psychiatry in the upcoming math cycle, inshallah. And I'm so happy to have you all here. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. I'm Natalia. I'm a final year medical student at King Edward, and I'm really looking forward to this session. It's really nice to meet you all.
Thanks a lot, my co-moderators, for joining us. I will start introducing our esteemed panelists. So right now, we have Dr. Ali Madeeh Hashmi, Dr. Noman Ashraf, and Dr. Fawzia Arai with us at this moment. And then we are Dr. Zeshan will be joining us pretty soon, and Dr. Farah Abbasi, the president of PAPANA, and she is someone, and I'll talk a little bit more about that, who basically started or at least got involved with Muslim mental health, and she has done more for Muslim mental health than anyone I personally know. So, without further ado, what I'll do is I will start with Dr. Ali Hashmi, Dr. Ali Hashmi, I have known him when I was an applicant back in 2015-16. He did his training from Baylor University in Houston. He's a graduate of King Edward's. And then he did his, as an attending, he worked in Arkansas before he returned back to Pakistan. And that was back in 2010. And since then, he has been involved in academics at King Edward Medical University. He is now the professor of psychiatry and also head of Department of Psychiatry. He is also involved in Punjab Institute of Mental Health. That is perhaps one of the biggest mental health institute in Punjab, and he has done a lot of work there. He has mentored countless residency applicants, and he continues to do so. So thanks a lot, Dr. Hashmi, for joining. Over to you.
Thank you very much, Ahmed, and Assalamu alaikum, everyone. I must admit my deep gratitude to you, particularly Ahmed, and to our dear friend in the US. I can see Fawzia on the screen. I think Naman is here. I think Sadiq might be joining, Zeshan, who worked in our department. I was thinking how we would start off, and the reason that I'm grateful is because Ahmed, you personally are very involved in the awareness and advocacy efforts, and I think we're doing a good job. I'm so happy that a lot of our young aspiring psychiatrists are here. Of course, people from King Edward, but I also see a young man from Allama Iqbal here. So how nice to see. Now, I think it's wonderful that we are having these discussions. I think it's wonderful that we're continuing our awareness and advocacy efforts, but that is going to bring us face to face with a significant issue, which is the critical human resource shortage of mental health professionals in Pakistan, which is where all of you in the US come in, because I think without our diaspora physicians, which is all of you, I really don't think there's any way to meet the need for the mental health issues that we are going to begin uncovering, that we've already uncovered, that we continue to work on. So I think it's wonderful that we're having this activity, because we need all of you in the US and in other countries to help us with the capacity building, with the human resource training, research, education, all of these. I know all of you mentor, our young graduates for residency training in the US and so on and so forth. But we also need the capacity building in Pakistan, because now that mental health is increasingly becoming something that's talked about on campuses, in society in general. And in that also, I think young people are really leading the way in terms of making sure that mental health is talked about, that mental illness is not hidden, that the stigma is being reduced. But once that happens, and once people start coming forward for help, then we are going to need qualified, compassionate people who will be there to provide the services. So I'm very happy to be part of this discussion. I'm a little bit concerned about what the future holds, but I think as long as all of our friends, Pakistan origin friends in the US and in other countries, Europe, North America, are with us, I have no doubt that we can tackle the challenge. So thank you all, and I'm very glad to be with you.
Thanks a lot, Dr. Hashmi. We have Dr. Fawzia Arain with us. She is an assistant professor of psychiatry at Rutgers, and she has been very active member of PAPANA, APPNA. She's also co-chair of APPNA Communication Committee this time. She has been a trailblazer of a person who has worked who has done so much for our young graduates. And despite of the fact that she is very new attending herself, she continues to contribute towards mentorship and education. Dr. Ryan.
Thank you very much, Rehan. I am humbled to have this introduction. I am here just to learn more, because like you have invited just a amazing attending from Pakistan, who can just like discuss the critical situation in Pakistan, and he has worked a lot in that. So thank you for arranging this. It's truly wonderful advocacy work that you are doing. Thank you.
Thanks a lot, Dr. Arai. I will request Dr. Farah Abbasi, who is president of PAPANA, and who is also who. That's what I said. That I think she has done more for Muslim mental health in US than anyone I personally know. She's also very actively involved in APPNA. She's part of the APPNA wellness committee, and then she is also works as an attending psychiatrist in Michigan as an assistant professor, and she is actively involved in teaching. Thanks, Dr.
Thank you so very much, and so grateful that you have gathered all of us together. I think when I look at mental health in Pakistan, it's so nuanced, so complicated, multi-layered. We are living in a society at an intersection of religion, culture, tradition. So on surface, there is a wave of modernity coming in, but deep down, the thinking is still very traditional, very tribal, very constricted in some ways. So when we put mental illnesses, the stigma is there, the barriers to access is there, the legal, social, political situation is a big stressor for the everyday person. And I think the youth is getting really deeply impacted by all this. So I look forward to learn the needs in Pakistan. We are working there. We are aware of some of the challenges, but it would be great to learn more and figure out that how can we bring all the stakeholders together. And by that, I means not only mental health providers at multiple levels, but also can we engage primary care or other physicians to do this work? Can we bring school systems into it? Can we bring faith leaders into this conversation? And hopefully not only impact the people, but can change the policies as well. Thank
Thanks a
you.
lot, Dr. Abbasi. Then we have a very, very, very active person. He is actively involved in his medical school alumni, which is Liaquat. And then he has been part of our YPC group. He was the chair of YPC. He is the residency program director of psychiatry and a fellowship director of addiction medicine and in Osrec Health, Joplin, Missouri. He's none other than Dr. Noman Ashraf.
Assalamu alaikum, everyone, and thank you, Dr. Khan, for the kind introduction, and thanks for arranging this webinar. Again, great to be with Dr. Hashmi, Dr. Abbasi, Dr. Arai, and I think Zeshan will be joining soon. So the topic is important, as everyone said, and it's timely that we talk about it. One thing I would like to highlight, as we heard from Dr. Hashmi also and Dr. Abbasi, collaborative framework is needed to address these problems. But as you said, Dr. Khan, in the beginning, that you learn about these issues through media or social media. So whether it's Hamid Mir or some other news anchor highlighting it, I think what needs to be done at a policy level is that you have to have focused research. So we have some data. Once you have the data, then you can drive policy changes. So I think that work needs to be done. So we are not, again, the media is good for creating awareness, but to cause policy change, we will really need hard data. So as Dr. Basi was saying, collaboration among all the universities, all the medical colleges, so we can get that data noted. The other point I would highlight is we are talking about this medical student suicide in Pakistan, but it's kind of universal. We deal with this problem here as well. Most of the reasons are the same, and we'll get into it during our discussions. But this is a universal issue, and we all struggle. And as Dr. Hashmi was also mentioning about the physician and psychiatrist shortage, it's again universal. Same thing, we struggle with it here as well. So looking forward to this session. Very excited to be part of it. Thank you.
Thanks a lot, everyone. I would like to highlight a few things, and then we can open it up for discussion. I think Dr. Numan mentioned about the psychiatric shortage. Dr. Ali Hashmi mentioned in his interview with Hamid Mir as well. So I have a few stats. So I think we have Pakistan Psychiatric Society, which I think they're doing a wonderful job. People like Dr. Hashmi, Dr. Imtiaz Dogar are part of it. So according to them, and maybe Dr. Hashmi can correct me, what my understanding is that we have around 700 to 800 psychiatrists in Pakistan, and Pakistan has a population of almost 25, 26 crores. Some people would say even 30 crores. Um, so that if we divide, it comes out to be almost one psychiatrist for almost 350,000 people, which the WHO, World Health Organization, say that ideally a country should have one psychiatrist for 10,000 people. Uh, we know that UK and US, they have almost one psychiatrist for 6,000 people. Of course, there is no point in comparing these countries because their infrastructure, their education system is different from our. But just so that people know, and again, my understanding is that among those 700, 800 people, not necessarily those everyone would be FCPS. I think they would be MCPS, they would be MD, there would be some diploma holders. Uh, what I have personally seen, Dr. Numan Ashraf raised a very good point about media. What I have personally seen, and I'm a little bit happy and still a little bit cautious about it, is the portrayal of mental health issues in overall in Pakistan. I think one of the biggest issue is that all those mainstream media channels, when they invite people to talk about mental health issues, more often than not, they invite people who have actually nothing to do with mental, like people like Dr. Hashmi and other qualified individuals from Pakistan. It would be very rare for them. Of course, they're busy as well, but a lot of time you will see like hip hop therapists with perhaps no formal qualifications, celebrity anchors turned marriage counselors talking about it. So what happens is, and they have good following. Like Instagram and TikTok in Pakistan is full of those people, 50 to 100K followers talking about mental health, incorporating religion heavily into mental health, surely spreading misinformation, according to best of my understanding. And unfortunately, because they have a huge following, so people tend to listen to them. So that is something that I think that one of the things that we should work on in terms of policy making, whether it's from the government standpoint, whether it's from the media channel standpoint, that whenever there's something like that, they should invite qualified and competent people to talk about these things. That's number one. Number two thing, and that we see here in US as well at another level, the quackery in the field of mental health. I must say that US is not at all immune from this. Actually, the current situation in US is that mental health or otherwise medical quackery is at an all-time high. People talk about unregulated treatments. People talk about a lot of things. I don't want to go into that. But so mental health quackery is also something that we should be very mindful about, because what I feel is in 2021, when I finished my residency, I was in Pakistan. My visa was under processing. So I was there for 4 months. And at that time, what I did was I was able to start a small private practice. I used to see most of the time, most people virtually, sometime in person. What That was very helpful experience for me because what I saw was that the Gen Z, the younger generation, they want to get help. They are coming forward. They are fighting the stigma. But the problem is when someone musters up the courage to take that final step, to come out and ask for help. If that person does not get the appropriate help, then it's a loss-loss situation for everyone, for the system, for that person. The last thing I would like to mention, and that again happened in US as well, that I think it's the mental health stigma among the healthcare providers. And I think Dr. Hashmi, I will request him to talk about that as well. When I was doing my house job in services hospital back in 2012, 2013, I could actually see that, like the non-psychiatrist attendings, assistant professor, associate, even PGs, SR, they actually at that time still believe that psychiatric illnesses are not that legit. I'm not saying everyone, but there is a prevailing notion still in Pakistan and even in US as well. And of course, we know the reason. It's weak blood pressure, diabetes. You can measure it. But of course, mental health issues you cannot measure unless you know how to measure it. So I think these are some of the things which I wanted to mention. And I agree with Dr. Numan that student suicide is not something that is just hitting Pakistan, India, or Asian countries. It's a huge issue in US as well. And I may not have exact numbers right now, but hundreds and thousands of students actually die by suicide in US and UK as well. While we were talking, we are fortunate that Dr. Zeshan has joined us. Dr. Zeshan is an assistant professor of psychiatry at Rutgers. He also has his own private practice. He is very vocal about mental health issues. He's a child psychiatrist from Harvard, and he talks a lot about advocacy and mental health awareness. He's also one of the board directors at APPNA. A lot of people know him as Dr. Z. So without further ado, I would request him to talk to.
Thank you so much, Dr. Ahmed Zain Khan, first of all, for organizing this, and apologize for joining a bit late. And I may have to mute in between. I am struggling with some sore throat, so I don't want everyone to hear the bad cough and the old. So before I start, share some of my thoughts, I want to acknowledge the tragedy in Islamabad yesterday, and hope and we pray for all the shaheed for this incident. And I pray that may Allah grant their families sabr, strength, and healing. I believe this loss reminds us how heavy pain can become invisible until it's too late. So to come back to our topic, Dr. Ryan, do I have few minutes to talk about things relevant to the topic, or more?
Yes, absolutely.
Thank you. So I think the first thing is that I believe that student suicide is really about one exam or one failure. What are the common feeling that we hear when we talk to the students? One thing is failure. I disappoint everyone. I feel embarrassed what my parents would think. This will never get better, feeling of hopelessness, and also loneliness that no one will understand. In medicine especially, we are taught to be strong, unfortunately silent, and perfect. But one thing I can tell you is, working with so many families, silence can become very dangerous. So it's good to try to be perfect, but if you are struggling, I will really encourage you to reach out to someone. In a leadership coaching, they taught us whenever we are in some kind of crisis situation, we need to focus on what is in our hand and what is outside our hand. Because whenever we are in failure, whenever we are in situation where we think nothing is going to get better, our brain just keep us thinking all the bad things. So in those things, a couple of things, what are the outside of our control is, let's say, the results, other people's expectation, comparison, ranking, gossip, those are all outside of our control. But what is inside our control is asking for help, talking to one safe person, taking the next small step, and protecting your life. So in leadership, they teach us literally that, when you get stuck in that dark phase, you literally put your hands like this. And if thought come, what people will think, if thought come, that was not fair, you ask to yourself, is it something in my control? Or it is something not in my control. And if it is not in your control, you literally put that thought just behind your back. And then you say, what can I do that is in my control? And few things I have shared, reaching out to someone. And, because I strongly believe that even Allah asks efforts from us, not perfection. So why we are trying to be perfect when there are so much room to make errors and there are so many possibilities to learn from it? So how we reframe our failure? So let me share a few things there as well. Again, failure is not the end. In leadership, again, they teach us that, how we see failure. They see it like, let's say there is a crack in the wall. One way to see is who made this crack, why this crack is on this wall. There may be an issue with the material that they use, or the builder was, not paying attention. So there are different ways to look at the crack. But there is another way that in leadership they teach us, instead of focusing who made that crack, why it happened, how it happened, and yelling and screaming and blaming each other, in leadership they'll teach us to see what the light showing through this crack and focus on that part. So what the light shows through this crack in a metaphorically way is that the light with this failure is showing me that I may need to study differently. I may need to reach out to my mentors a little bit early rather than feeling stuck that, what my supervisor, my professor will feel if I ask this silly question, what other people feel. So trying to focus on what is, rather than focusing on the crack, rather than focusing on that failure, we focus on what is this light showing us, so that we can start on more on the healing. And the third thing, and again, please, because work with so many families, we understand how dark that time would be in your brain. So although it's very easy for me to say that there is a light at the end of the tunnel, but I know that this tunnel can seem very dark. It seems very scary. It seems very stuck. But there are different ways that we can bring that light inside the tunnel. So what are those ways? First, again, reaching out to the person. The second is that telling yourself, I'm not okay. Don't pretend to be okay. It's perfectly fine. Because, unfortunately in our culture, feeling happy when we get good grades, we get a praise, but no one ever taught us that feeling sad, feeling down, feeling failed, feeling embarrassed, these are also all the normal feelings to have. So be truth to yourself. So the other thing that you can bring light in the tunnel is to stay truth and say, I'm not okay, and accept help. Accepting help is not a weakness. It is actually a strength. But if you stay in isolation, it feeds hopelessness. But the connections weakens it. Your actions weaken, that darkness. And most of the time during those moments, students reach out to their friends. So I have a couple of suggestions for friends, what you can do if someone opens up to you. Many times what I have seen students, if one friend is about to tell the pain, the other student will just go directly, yaar ye to kuch bhi nahi hai, mere saath to isse bhi bahut zyada hua tha, let's go have kadai, let's go have ice. I mean, we go either fixing things, और वो दूसरे बंदे को ये लगता है यार शायद मेरा मसला थोड़ा है, इसका शायद ज्यादा है. So what are a couple of strategies, because that's a very critical moments when someone comes to you and open up that, I'm struggling, I fail, I'm worried that, I'm embarrassing my family. So how you as a friend can help? First thing, don't try to fix or judge. The second thing is validate. Dr. Dan Siegel ये कहते हैं, name it to tame it. You say, I am glad you told me. It must be really upsetting. It must be really frustrating. It must be really embarrassing. Don't say कि यार इस तरह नहीं सोचते हैं, ऐसा नहीं होता. Don't invalidate the feeling. You just say what the person is saying is. Don't try to minimize it. सब ठीक हो जाएगा, ऐसा कुछ नहीं होता, ये तो temporary है. चीजें ठीक नहीं होती हैं until we help them when someone is asking for help. And if things are really bad, ask and encourage them to get the professional help. And again, stay connected. वो आपका दोस्त आपकी बात नहीं भी सुन रहा, तो don't take it personal. Just say, maybe I'm not able to help, but is it okay if I can keep in touch with you? And you don't need to be a psychiatrist, honestly, to say these things. You just have to be a human. Just understand, just listen, just be available as a source, and don't, as I said, feel personal if you think that you're not helping. Last thing, I mean, reassure you, we all, a lot of our esteemed colleagues are here. We all went through so many exams. Your life is worth more than any exam or any failure or any embarrassment. Please believe it. This pain, this failure is all temporary. It it may feel permanent, but it's not. Help is there and help is necessary. So please talk to someone today. Please choose life, and we need you here. Thank you.
Thanks a lot, Dr. Zeshan. Really, really appreciate it. So when we started talking about this webinar, a lot of people, I think, sent us a lot of questions. We can begin with those questions. I have some, my co-moderators have some. I will start by asking Dr. Ali Hashmi, because Dr. Ali Hashmi, you are in the middle of everything. You are right there in Pakistan, in Lahore. You see all of those struggles which students are facing. What I personally feel, one of the difference and one of the thing in my personal opinion that can make a difference is the availability of a student counselor, whether it's a school, whether it's a college, whether it's a university, that abides by the confidentiality. I think that is something, in my personal opinion, that we don't have that much, because I remember back in when I was a medical student, that if there was any issue, they would say, okay, you can go to your psychiatry department. And unfortunately, at that time at least, you go in the morning and by evening you are getting calls from everyone. What's going on? What's going on? I think it's the lack of confidentiality we have seen. And again, I'm because not there, so I may not be privy to the exact situation. But my understanding is that all of, apart from medical college, of course, medical colleges have better system, but those universities, bigger universities, colleges, they may not have like a dedicated student counselor, which is like a core component in any Western country, that starts from actually kindergarten and go until like the very end. So I wanted to ask about that.
Oops.
We can hear you.
Okay, so yes, okay, thank you. Thank you, Ahmed, and Assalamu alaikum, Zeshan. I think I didn't say hello to you earlier. Zeshan, we are particularly proud of Zeshan because he was a part of our department back in the day. So, Ahmed, that's an excellent concern. So there's two separate parts of that question. One is the availability of basic and perhaps advanced mental health counseling on campuses in general. And the second is the processes, the procedures that are in place to, you can say, for one thing, to maintain confidentiality on campus, but that, there are surrounding issues of that also in terms of confidentiality, not just from, co-workers, but from the media, from so on and so forth. So I think let's take the first question first, which is the availability of mental health counseling on all campuses. Now, interestingly, that there was a question when we started, we talked about, and Noman very accurately pointed out that we need to have good data in order to go to the government to persuade them to make policy changes, which can then enforce these things on campuses and in society in general. But interestingly, mental health counseling is already part of educational policy in Pakistan. So the Higher Education Commission, which regulates all universities and higher education in Pakistan, has already mandated, and this happened even before COVID happened. And in COVID, of course, it was sort of advanced and emphasized. So all education institutions all over Pakistan, as a policy, must have mental health counseling on campus available at all times for students, staff, workers, employees, everybody. And so this is our higher education. So this is post-secondary school education. But of course, higher education policy automatically trickle down to the school level. So that means if the higher education is mandating it, then it's automatically also mandated for school education, which means that you need to have this available beginning, from kindergarten all the way up to high school and then onward to college and university. This is already part of educational policy in Pakistan. It's not so it's sort of linked to health policy. That requirement is already there. Now, as a medical university, King Edward, of course, has a whole psychiatry department. All medical colleges have psychiatry departments. The colleges and universities that have psychology programs that are teaching psychology have on-campus counseling because they already have existing psychology departments. I think where the gap remains is institutions which are not medical institutions and not teaching mental health as a core education course. So, engineering colleges and arts colleges and business colleges, even though interestingly, last year, so a very well-known business college in Lahore, in Pakistan, is Lahore University of Management Sciences, LUMS. And so last year, I had some meeting with LUMS because current vice chancellor happens to be my cousin, and I have another cousin who teaches there. So we had some meeting. Then he approached me and said, "Can you help us with some mental health support for our students?" And we've done that. They have so LUMS has a very very good, very well staffed student counseling service, which I helped them with a few years ago, connected them to another institution. So what LUMS has done is they've actually started a bachelor's of psychology, and this is something that we helped them with, King Edward helped them with, and so they've inducted their first class. So now that business college is also going to have an undergraduate program in psychology, which will strengthen the mental health services available on campus. But there are many other colleges which don't have any kind of mental health services, even though that's mandated. So I think all that needs to be done in that case is for those institutions themselves to, and really you can't not have mental health services because it's already part of education policy. And if they don't have that, then they're violating education policy and government policy, which can then have different kinds of consequences. But what ends up happening is that sometimes there's just a token presence of somebody that they designate as a mental health counselor. They're perhaps not, not trained for that, not qualified for that. So that's one part. I think we are further ahead in that domain than other things because that is already part of education policy in Pakistan. Now, the other part in terms of how can students or staff or employees of various institutions, we can talk about education institutions to begin with, how can they access mental health services which are high quality and confidential, and that I think remains a work in progress. At King Edward, we have tried to set up very sort of strict SOPs to make sure that confidentiality is maintained. But even within King Edward, and we pride ourselves on doing it the right way. But even there, sometimes those leakages, those slippages happen to where things kind of leak out, and I think it's something that we need to keep working on. But one problem sometimes is that just in general, elementary principles of patient care, HIPAA, for instance, patient confidentiality, record keeping, is taken in a very sort of lax manner in Pakistan in general, not just mental health, but record keeping itself, documentation, confidentiality, that in general is not followed as closely as it is in the US. And I think in that instance, where you all can contribute is to just like these sort of activities. I think, and I think APPNA and some of these some of these organizations are already doing it, is to design courses specifically centered around that. So adequate documentation, patient care principles, basic ethical principles like confidentiality. So I think, and we really should start with all of us, right? So people who are in medical institutions, in medical colleges, in medical universities are the people that other people turn to when they need help with figuring out what the principles are. So they are going to ask us questions about how they should do it right. So if we can start, if we can educate people at King Edward and Mayo Hospital about how this is done right, then that has a ripple effect on other institutions, in medical and non-medical. And then that can be sort of a force multiplier for doing things, in the ongoing thing. I think it's a slow process because in Pakistan things have been done a certain way for a long time, but now because of these kinds of sort of hybrid online interaction, and because of efforts of people like you, things are beginning to trickle down. That this is the way we've done things for a long time is not necessarily the right way to do it. It's not necessarily the most effective way to do it. It's not something that is helping. So I think we just need to keep beating the drum, and people are listening for sure. I think sometimes it takes a while, and sometimes we're impatient that we want change to happen quicker than perhaps it's possible to happen in old institutions and in a country that like Pakistan, which is 78 years old. But things are changing very gradually, and I think the way people have in general have responded to these recent student suicide, I think it's been encouraging because people have responded mostly in compassionate ways. So,
All right. Thanks a lot, Dr. Hashmi, for detailed reply. So we have Dr. Zeshan and Dr. Farah Abbasi raised hands. We'll request them one by one, starting from Dr. Zeshan to talk, and then we have some questions in the chat. We'll also go through them.
Thank you. Thank you. It's such an honor, Professor Dr. Ali Madeeh Hashmi. It's a blessing and honor to get trained under your supervision at Mayo Hospital and trying to follow your footsteps very hard. And I think you are such a blessing for students of Pakistan and families and patients in Pakistan. So I think at Nishtar level, what we try to do it that we reach out to Mukhtar Sheikh Hospital, like another independent hospital which has a psychiatry department, and so to maintain the confidentiality. So that is one way we were able to do it. The second thing that we learned, and that was uh, very important information for us to learn, the students were able to go, but they were not able to follow because of the cost of the therapy and definitely the medication. So we tried, still in process, to provide some subsidized fee and even free both for medical student and nursing. But that's something we try to do at Nishtar because confidentiality is huge. Thank you.
Dr. Abbasi.
Yeah, thank you. So I think at this point also, let's go deeper into what is happening right now. Are we seeing this increase in suicide? Is it really that suicides are happening more now? Or is it because of social media we are becoming more aware of it? So I think we have to understand, of course, we are all coming from our background and experience and whatever field like location we are working in, but how do we adapt and understand what is really happening right now and why are we seeing this sudden increase in these suicides in Pakistan? So, of course, I also want to understand is what kind of support system is out there, right? Who are the stakeholders? And so there is one thing is fight the stigma, create awareness, but also how do we improve access, but also understand the unique challenges that Pakistani society is going through right now. So it's interesting is we are very focused on individual right now, but we are not thinking of like somebody who's struggling. How does the society provide? How do we become a protective society? How do we become a supportive society? So what is the society doing? What are the family members doing? Are parents aware of these struggles? Are parents supporting these kids? So it is important, yes, that we empower the individual, we create awareness, but it is as important that a society is built around it, which includes parents, which include families, which includes faith leaders, teachers, politicians, whoever out there. Another piece is, even in America, we struggle with silos. Like we individually all are doing work. But what is needed is instead of each one of us repeating the cycle, how do we come together and augment each other's work? So what I'm hearing right now from Pakistan also, a society which is have limited resources, we are not utilizing what is already being done. So Nishtar is doing this, Aga Khan is doing a lot. Then I'm sure other institute that you all mentioned are doing this work. But what we need is a platform that we all come together and augment each other, support each other so that the resources are replicated, not depleted. So those were my concern. I just want to throw one thing out there for parents that please understand that if your child is 12-year-old, so you have actually spent almost 75% time that you will get to spend with them. And by 18, it's 90%. So these kids who are now entering campuses, 18, 20, they will not have that much interaction with you. So what are we doing starting early on to provide that supportive system? validating system, so that when they are getting that independent and individualizing, how do they know that where to come back to? Are they coming back to their parents? Are they coming back to good teachers? Are they coming back? So I think that is where I feel Pakistan can do a lot more. Thank you.
Thanks, Dr. Abbasi. So we have a question which I would direct towards Dr. Numan Ashraf. Um, so the question was asked, how frequently should students undergo online mental health screening, and what adaptation would be necessary to implement this effectively in Pakistani context? So this, and then I would also request Dr. Numan Ashraf to talk, because he has been part of the RISA merit committee, that how can some of those initiatives with Forum of PAPANA, APPNA, we can do maybe some training of like HIPAA confidentiality, training of primary care physicians, young residents. How can we make some collaborations work like that?
Right. So let me start with your question. There again with training, it's tricky. It's all voluntary. You can encourage people. Can you mandate it? That becomes a very gray area. Now, some people say, yeah, you can have like some of the places you go to, they'll give you the personality test forms and other forms to fill out. But I think this is more on what we have already learned is creating a culture of awareness and decreasing the stigma, so people feel that they have support system available. One of the things that we do here is having those employee assistant program EAPs, where like our residents or trainees, we provide them free sessions. So you have 6 free sessions per year, and you can just talk to the counselor for anything. So suppose if that is something that's launched in Pakistan and all the medical universities, and we tell those students, hey, you have these sessions, and not necessarily you have to be struggling. Like suppose we talk about interpersonal therapy here a lot. When people move from different towns to another place for their medical school or for their residency, there's a role transition, there's a switch, there's adjustment that needs to happen. So there are lots of things that happen during that time because you're not with your family, you're not with your friends, and there's a stress. There's no such system, I think, in Pakistan to talk about it. People, if they are moving to hostel, if they are not day scholars that are moving to another town, how do they adjust to that new situation? So if we introduce those counseling sessions, you just meet with them and talk about how did you adjust? Did you need any help? Do you just need some resources in the city? What about accommodation resources? What about which restaurants to go to? Anything. Just start with mild conversations, engage them. So once they're engaged, then of course, hopefully, if they have issues, then they will be more open to talking about this. So how frequently this should be done? I think offering certain sessions, either 3 or 4 a year, free sessions, just to engage them. That should be done from our platforms. Merit, we have been doing these courses every year. We're going to do another course this year. That course is basically geared towards increasing the capacity building, and now this issue has come to light about the student suicide in Pakistan. So what we are doing additionally is we're including a webinar and also seminars on student mental health. So we'll be doing first one in a spring meeting, for example, and then we'll have series of webinars through YPC. So we are engaging all our committees to reach out and provide. Basically, it's going to be a capacity enhancing work from us and creating awareness on those lines. I think I've heard most of the panelists, and a lot of things have been mentioned. One thing that we have not captured is, which I think should be done everywhere in the US, UK, Pakistan, is counseling before you join medicine. So the problem that I have seen is most of the people they join medicine, especially in Pakistan, most of us can relate to it, is because not because of your own sheer passion and that you wanted to join medicine. It's because of the external pressure since the time you're born, and that from either from the families or from friends or from other people that this person should be a doctor, or we want to have a doctor in our family, or you should be a doctor. So they are coached to become a doctor regardless of whether they have the skill set or they understand what this field takes. It's not an easy field. We all have gone through it. It requires a lot of resilience. Your personal life is not your anymore. You may have a wedding or in your family or your friend. You may have an important parties celebration. But if you're on call or if you have an important exam, you don't have time, you have to make a lot of sacrifices. So people need to understand before they go into medicine, and if they are not equipped for it and they join it, then they meet with this sort of the identity crisis issue where whether I belong to this profession or not, and then the burnout kicks in. So I think that's where we need to invest our efforts, is starting those counseling sessions before people join in their high schools, in their colleges, to really test out their aptitude. Do you really want to be a doctor, and you understand what this field takes? And lots of students who go and join medicine, they want to get education outside Pakistan. It's not easy anymore. Like coming to US, it's hard to get the visa, hard to get rotation. The prices have gone up, like the fees. So you need to have a lot of money secured to come here before even you join, start your job. So knowing about all those things, knowing about hurdles, is it something worth it? And if you join it blindly, then I think then you meet with all the resistance, and then you have burnout and depression, and then unfortunate instances of suicide. So I think that's another point that I want to highlight. Thank you.
Thanks, Dr. Ashraf. We have a question I would ask Dr. Fazia Rahim because, of course, she's a psychiatrist as well as a mother of. Uh, she has three children and one of them teenager. So there's a concept like how has the competitive race for grades, career, social competition changed the emotional life of students compare to our generations? Like if we compare Gen Z with our generation, the fear, the competitive race to get good grades and to be like top of their class and all that, how that has impacted the mental health of students.
Yeah, thank you very much, Ahmad, for asking this. So I agree with Dr. Zeshan and Dr. Noman Ashraf, Dr. Ali Madeeh Hashmi. They just like spoke about the pressure in like while pressure on students today. So both as a child psychiatrist and a mother of grown-up children, I think parents in our culture, they misunderstand the most about the pressure students are under today. The biggest misunderstanding is they believe pressure motivates children. So but for many students today, pressure is actually crushing them very silently. In our culture, pressure often like comes wrapped in like love. They say that parents says that we just want you to succeed, but what children often hear it, they just like hear it like you are only as good as your marks. So they don't say it loud, but they internalize it. And to answer your question that like the competitive race as compared to our generation, I would say like what I have seen, what I have personally experienced while like raising my kids and going through all these circumstances, like today's students, they are not just studying, they are living in a world where they are constantly exposed to everyone else's success. We were not like that. Earlier, a child that like compared themselves to a few classmates, like maybe we were comparing ourselves with cousins, maybe someone in our neighborhood to the most. But now they are competing like themselves to the whole world every single day through their phone. They see toppers, they see influencers, they see scholarships, they see achievements, like perfect lives, all in just like one scroll, and they feel like they are always behind. So there is like this constant silent thought, I'm not enough, I'm not good enough. And at the same time, they know that opportunities exist everywhere. They want to like reach out to all those opportunities. They know that they can leave their city, their country, their circumstances. We were not exposed to this kind of like resources, and they all know that they can build a different life, and there is a different life that exists just like across the border. So this all creates pressure, because now the feeling is not just I should do well. The feeling is if I don't do well, I will be stuck. So everything is available just in one click, information comparison, lots of expectations, but emotional support is not enough. This is the imbalance right now. If we provide the equal emotional support to the exposure, to the level of exposure they have, I don't think so there would be any trouble or anything. But this is so they are mentally exhausted in a way our generation never experienced. We were never that exhausted, mentally exhausted. They are afraid to disappoint their parents, afraid to look weak, afraid to say I'm not okay. They are even afraid of saying that, and so they stop talking. And this is where the danger begins, not when a child fails, but when a child feels they cannot fail.
Thanks a
So
lot, Dr. Arai. And then Dr. Abbasi raised her hand, and I would also like to direct one question that Dr. Manal Mukhtar asked about the impact of like religion in many South Asian countries. When anxiety depression is expressed, elder often encourage turning towards religion. So, what is the clinical aspect of it?
Thank you for asking me that important question. But just building on what everyone has said, and Dr. Arai especially, we have to be aware that besides silence, we have a culture that thrives on shaming others, and guilt and shame is also very strong factors that come into play. Another thing is, and Dr. Zeshan can maybe add to it, is the impact of social media is not only you are seeing other people's success, but you are also getting exposed to a lot of negative stuff as well. Just addiction to social media is a risk for your mental health. But we are also seeing bullying. We have to talk about harassment, social harassment and bullying that is happening on our campuses, and that goes unnoticed. Coming to religion, of course, in our any faith-based society, it is mental illnesses are deemed as spiritual weaknesses. And especially there's this notion that in Islam, suicide is haram. So remember, suicide is condoned, but somebody attempting or completing suicide is not condemned. There's a big difference. So there is a very in-depth understanding of mental illnesses. Every word of Quran is seeped in mental wellness. And especially there is an ayat that just recently an imam shared with me, is that even if you have transgressed against yourself, know that God is merciful. We have this concept in our society that religion is punitive, that God is going to punish you. We only talk about going to hell or the sin that you are committing. We are not understanding the message of love, peace, harmony, support, especially around mental illnesses. So there are incidents from Prophet's life that people who killed themselves as an act of sheer hopelessness, those were the ones that were condoned, that life is a gift given to you, is it amanat given to you by God. And if you are giving up, you are kind of transgressing and not having belief in God, that God can prevail and help you. But at the same time, only in our religion, there's a concept of majnoon, somebody who's not mentally competent. And those who are deemed majnoon were actually, there were no religious or societal responsibilities on them. They were exempt from that. And this is all from Quranic verses I'm talking about. So majnoon becomes the responsibility of the society. The society has to help this person who's struggling, and not only help them get over the mental illness, but also rehabilitation. How do we bring them back to the society? So the first mental institutions were actually built in Muslim societies. So we have actually moved away from our heritage, culture, and true religious beliefs. So I feel that the research shows that religion can be very healing and supportive if religion is used as a support system and not to punish you, not to make you more guilty. Not to, so those would be my points. And another point I do want to add is another huge prevalent issue that we need to bring focus on is the growing addiction in this generation and the substances that are easily available. So again, multi-tiered, interdisciplinary approach that's needed. Thank you.
Thanks a lot, Dr. Abbasi. I would ask this question. I think if Dr. Hashmi is still available, I would request him because a few people have actually asked about it. So I think they are saying that if universities even have some counseling available, the problem is the fear of judgment, not only from the people around them, especially their friends, but even they're saying sometimes the demonstrators, the staff, they are also involved in like mocking them, making fun of them. Oh, he or she is so weak. He went to counseling. So I think that is something that have been asked multiple times in different ways. So Dr. Hashmi will request your input about are there any like teaching for the young demonstrators or everyone, non-psychiatric staff, that how can we approach that?
Yes, sure. I think it's a legitimate concern. I think it's a good question. And yes, that is a real thing. It can happen. I think the stigma that is receding in the youngest generation, so the people who are on this panel, so medical students, is now beginning to the lack of stigma, the reduction in stigma is beginning to sort of flow upward to our junior teachers, lecturers, demonstrators, assistant professors. So it is very gradually getting better, but I think some of those old attitudes still persist. So that part is there. I think, I mean, it sort of ties into what everyone has been saying, which is that it needs to be part of the awareness advocacy efforts for everybody, including not just the people who are affected by mental health issues, but people who are surrounding them. And since I work in a medical university, and I think we all are involved in teaching and educating in some way, we can sort of stay within that framework. And then that can be rippled outward to larger society, like Dr. Basi was saying. But so let me give you a concrete example. So a couple of weeks ago, we had an incident at King Edward, which turned out okay. You know, everything's fine now. We had a student who had a mental health crisis. So we've already done a sort of a debriefing session, a sort of a crisis intervention, a psychological first aid for that student's peers and class fellows who were themselves feeling somewhat traumatized by the incident that happened. So we've done that in our psychiatry department. We had some people come over, and we were going to continue doing that. We are actually fortunate that our own students took an initiative, almost not quite, starting in about 2017, that they formed a peer counseling service called the Zanha Counseling Program, named after one of our students who died back in 2017. And so that is a program which we are actually going to present. We are in the process of preparing a project to present at APA this year in San Francisco on that particular program, which is a student-led peer counseling program for mental health support on campus. So we are doing that, but then we're also going to have a session probably next week with that particular student who experienced that mental health incident, was living in the hostel. There's been a mention of people leaving home, coming to live in hostels for the first time, being away from home, living by themselves for the first time. So there's some mention of that. So we are actually going to have a session with our hostel administrative staff. We're going to have a session with people who are in, sort of like assistant wardens and people who are in supervisory positions in our students' hostel. And we are going to sort of do some basic mental health education. And what we want to do is to train them in just very basic recognition of early warning signs of somebody who might be experiencing or on the way to experiencing a mental health crisis. So that particular incident which happened, a student actually attempted suicide and ended up in the ICU. And I like to say that a student who experienced, so for instance, we can name the university since it's been in the media. So University of Lahore is where the two actual student suicides happened in the last month. One student actually ended up dying, unfortunately. Another one is in critical condition. So when something like that happens, where a student actually attempts suicide, I like to compare it to the tip of a leaf in a large tree. It's a very terminal late incident which had a lot of, so you really have to go back through the leaf and into the branches and into the trunk and down into the roots and really find out upstream what happened that incident happened and where we can intervene earlier instead of getting all upset when a student end up in the ICU or a student jumps off the roof. That's fine. We should be upset about that. We should be doing something about that. But we really need to go further back and find out what was missed. What was it that the student was trying to communicate? Who heard it and who didn't pay enough attention so that nobody was alerted? So that, so our student at King Edward, what did we miss? And this is the way I look at it, this is the way we look at it. What did we miss, the week before that incident, the month before that incident, the 6 months before that incident? Where could we have intervened earlier so that, that extreme incident wouldn't have happened? So the idea behind training our staff and what you talked about is, so students, the main interaction students is the junior faculty. So the lecturer, the demonstrator, the assistant professors. So that is the tier that we want to focus on. And of course, administrative people, for example, in the hostel, who the students interact with on a regular basis, and sensitize them, make them aware of what could be very early signs of a mental health problem developing in the student so that they can alert us before it gets to that point so we can reach out proactively instead of after the student ends up in a crisis. So we are working on that. I think that's the model that we are trying to develop. And once we do that, I really like Numan's idea that we really should develop some solid data about that. And once we have the data, we can share it with other institutions and we can share it with the governments. And then perhaps we can come up with more sustained policy. But of course, I think if all of us focused on our own sort of circle of influence, our institution, our training program, our community, and we could, instead of worrying about why is it not happening all over Pakistan. I mean, I want to make sure it's not happening within my university and then within my community and all that. And I think that sort of, form the natural nucleus which can then link up and do things more widely and more broadly.
Thanks a lot, Dr. Hashmi. So we will start wrapping up our session, and I would start with my co-moderators to just mention some of the things in their mind if they want to share some last-minute thoughts, and then we'll ask every panelist to share some last-minute thoughts, and then we'll wrap up. I will start with Natalia.
Hello. So I had a question, which was, how do we help someone who has attempted suicide re-enter everyday life without making them feel defined by that particular moment?
That's a complex question. I think, Natalia, I think you want to be a psychiatrist, a question which befits a future psychiatrist, I think. I think for peers, I think if it's a friend of yours, somebody that you know, I would think the best way to deal with that is to, just kind of de-emphasize. I mean, just because the person had a mental health issue doesn't mean that anything has changed. They went through an issue, now they've recovered, you can provide the support that you need. I don't think there should be any particular change in anyone's attitude either way. I mean, of course, there shouldn't be any stigma. Of course, there shouldn't be any demeaning or degrading of that person. But perhaps they also want to move past that and not dwell on it. And perhaps if they want to talk about it as a friend, you can lend a supportive ear. I think it would be helpful if you as a friend, you kept on encouraging them to follow up with whoever they're seeing, a psychologist or psychiatrist, to make sure that part doesn't get missed. If in addition they need a listening ear, a sympathetic ear, then you can provide that as a friend. But I would think if I was someone who had gone through that, I would want to help my friends, help me get on with life and not sort of linger on that, not dwell on that. I think that would be most helpful. In addition to friends encouraging me to to get the help that I needed and make sure I didn't draw away from that. But I mean, I'd be curious to know what other panelists think.
Yes, building on.
We can hear you, Dr. Abbasi.
Okay, so building on that, yes, validate their pain, reassure that this is not a sin. Don't add to their guilt or shame. Just normalize it that you are going through. It's the same way. If you had been diagnosed with cancer and you get hopeless, so does severe depression, does the same. So if they have gotten to that point, just assuring them, validating the pain, looking into how instead of providing them solutions, active listening, just hear them out, what they are saying, what got them to that point.
All right. So I would ask Dr. Heather Ashfaq to say a few words, and then we'll request our panelists to say a few words, and we'll wrap it up.
Thank you so much. My question for Dr. Fawzia would be that are we mislabeling this crisis as a burnout? Because sometimes it's more of a moral injury considering working within a broken system that undermines dignity and ethical care, especially within Pakistani hospitals. So how much what we're seeing is reflects a primary mental health disorder versus how much is a rational response to an irrational training environment?
Uh, this is a good question, but very long discussion. Like this is like what we are seeing is just like a iceberg phenomena. So we can have a separate webinar on that. Yeah, because like all these, like obviously these stresses they built up. There are like as Dr. Abbasi initially she said that like is this like these suicidal rates have increased or there is more awareness now, there is more like media approach now, and we are coming to know that like these kind of like events are happening around us. So these were happening like for years around us, but now there is more awareness about that, and we are now becoming more aware of like how we can work on providing resources for mental health. So like along with that, I would like to ask Emma to wrap up now. I would at the same time I would like to give my message to every parent. If I can convey my message, make your home a safe place. This you can do like without any government support, without any educational institute support, without any like support from society. Make your own home a safe place, not another exam hall. When a child comes home, they should feel relief, not another round of questioning about studies or like what's going on. Home should be where they can relax, talk, and they can be themselves without a fear of judgment.
Dr. Nida Waheed.
Yes, thank you, Dr. Khan. Actually, I have a question for Dr. Madeeh Hashmi that he knows that we have a system like we have this open letterbox thing at ZHCP. And I just wanted to ask, where students used to write anonymous letters with a sticker on it just to identify that, and we used to reply to those letters. So can we expand it to an open mail thing or something at a broader level to include other students as well from different institutes, not only med schools, but also different universities and colleges? Thank you.
Yes, so thank you, Nida. I think you were working pretty closely with GHCP back in the day, and I think that's a great way of doing it. I think for sure, rather than inviting other colleges to use ZANHA counseling program for mental health needs for their students, I think a more constructive approach would be to encourage those colleges, and I've had these conversations with principals and administrators to set up their own counseling programs in that particular college, consisting of their own students, consisting of their own faculty who can oversee it. And so, because that would sort of, that would spread the burden on rather than bringing it all onto King Edward. So Lama Iqbal and Nishtar and all these, it's a very simple model that we'd be happy to share with whoever wants to do that. Essentially, you just do some basic peer counseling for peer counseling training for students who can recognize early warning signs, and then just connect, the trainers to the psychiatry department in an effective way. And so, that's all that's needed. And then ongoing sort of supervision, some ongoing training. So I think a more helpful way to do that would be to help set up other colleges and universities, set up peer counseling programs with the supervision of their own faculties and their own administration. That would be very helpful. But of course, the confidentiality part, I think, needs to be maintained, because otherwise people won't come forward. There are very, very interesting and very, very useful comments in the chat box, which we can't get to all of them because I think we're running over time. But I'd just like to mention, in addition to Higher Education Commission and educational policies mandating, there's one comment in there that sort of points to what I'm about to say, which is that government policy, educational policy in Pakistan also talks about an environment on education institutions which is free of harassment of all sorts, including sexual harassment, which is equitable in terms of people being able to approach not just mental health counselors, but also their own senior supervisors, their own departments to redress any grievances. The mention was, the comment was talking about, what if a student is feeling perhaps belittled, or perhaps in a power differential kind of situation, if a faculty member and someone in a position of power is a student is feeling threatened by that, what should they do? And the answer to that is that policies exist in provinces. The provincial governments and the federal government of Pakistan has mandated that all education institutions have harassment committees, anti-bullying committees, all of those actively working on campus that redress any grievances that any students have against any faculty members, staff members. So, our effort and the government's effort and our aim is to provide an educational environment which is free and open and tolerant, where all students are free to speak their mind about any issue that they want, and they have the absolute right to be listened to with sympathy. And if something is happening that they feel is not appropriate, then there should be a mechanism in place to report that, and then that complaint or that thing should be addressed. So I'll just leave that out there, because all of that is already mandated by the government. It's part of government policy, education policy in the federal government, in the provincial governments. And if an institution does not have that, then it needs to be set up, because that's what the government has mandated. Otherwise, the institution is not following the policy that already exists on the ground. We certainly have that at King Edward. We follow it very, very strictly. We have anti-harassment committee. We have, of course, the mental health issues and all that kind of stuff. So we are very serious about the rights of our students, including the right to access mental health. But that is a right that every student in Pakistan enjoys by law. And that is something that needs to be enforced across campuses.
Thanks a lot, Dr. Hashmi. We'll just wrap up the session. We'll ask Dr. Abbasi to share some final words. I would like to again thank everyone who joined. I think it takes a lot of courage even to join. That I would like to especially thank my co-moderator who made this event possible. Over to you, Dr. Abbasi.
So thank you so much. Building on what Dr. Hashmi is saying, I want to mention a very important initiative that Air Marshal Amir Masood has started. It's called Umre Rawa. It's based on early intervention, and they have adopted 3 schools where 6th grade onwards, there's mandatory screening, counseling available. And if there is some illness identified, then the student is referred to a psychologist. So almost 11,000 kids have gotten screening under this initiative of Umre Rawa. So there is amazing work being done. But just one thing I want to mention is that we think of mental health and that we need teachers to support us, parents to support us. But actually the we can start breaking stigma with each one of us. So before even we question anyone else, just sit with yourself and say, are you open to mental health treatment? And are you be able to support someone struggling with mental illness? So each one of us can be part of the problem or part of the solution. And mental wellness starts with each one of us. So I want to leave with that message that there is no health without mental health, and each one of you is responsible for not only yours, but everybody around you. Thank you.
Thanks a lot, Dr. Abbasi. I would just like to again thank all of you. I would like to mention Bhavna Devi, Marvi Devi. They are psych applicants. They also joined our sessions. Again, heartiest I'm heartiest congratulations to all of the participants who joined, because that's also a dense topic. Not everyone is willing to join. So we have had over 50 participants at all the time. Hopefully we can do more sessions in the future, and we'll go from there. Thanks a lot, everyone, for joining, and goodbye.